Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the final episode of Game of Thrones. As always, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. So look, I'm not even going to bother beating around the bush with this one. I'm just going to tell you how I feel straight away, and I thought this was a pretty disastrous finale. A tiny part of me had still hoped that this season could be somehow redeemed by some kind of epic twist or big reveal that would make me forget what became before this episode. But nope, instead this was a dull end to the series filled with plot holes galore. And now we've also got a water bottle to go alongside our coffee cup. And wait a minute, guess what? I've actually managed to get a limited edition Game of Thrones bottle of water. See, can you see that? GOT, Game of Thrones. This is a real product and you can buy it now from my website, what website? I don't even know I had a website, I'm just making shit up now, for a reasonable price of £99. Tastes like disappointment. As expected, this episode deals with the fallout from Dany going mental last week and killing everyone. Things don't get off to a good start and it only gets worse the longer the episode goes on. I mean, in the first 10 minutes I already found myself getting annoyed with a lot of stuff that was happening. The episode opens with Tyrion slowly plodding around King's Landing in a scene which I guess is there to show us the horrific nature of Dany's actions. However, the problem is this scene goes on for way too long and we already know how bad the burning of King's Landing was because we had to watch it for 40 minutes last week. I didn't really see the need of having Tyrion looking all depressed for what felt like forever as he walks around the city, to be honest. Tyrion then conveniently stumbles upon Jaime and Cersei's corpses, with it becoming clear that if they had just moved 5 feet to either side, they would have survived. Seriously, last week the entire room collapsed, whereas now it seems like the rubble only fell in a few specific places. Now I'm sure some people are going to come out and say that this is being nitpicky, but honestly I don't think it's being nitpicky to expect some form of consistency in a show from one week to the next. But obviously D&D just don't give a shit about that. I mean, shortly after we see the Dothraki out again in full force, even though they all died a couple of weeks ago, but hey, let's just forget about that. I would say the only thing that I really liked about this episode was seeing Dany play the villain, even if it was only for about 5 minutes before she was offed, but I'll get to that later. Dany's speech in front of her followers showed how too far gone she really was, with her warped belief that she was liberating people by basically killing them and destroying their homes, echoing George Bush's foreign policy in the early 2000s. That was a risky joke to make, Josh, with a mostly American audience. Better quickly move on. Anyway, the sad thing is that this speech illustrated that given the right material and build-up, Daenerys could have made for a compelling antagonist. If the show had dedicated, say, I don't know, a season to Dany going mad and then had the Starks teaming up to take her down, I think they could have pulled it off. But as it stands, we were given a glimpse of what things could be before normal service resumed. Before killing the Queen, Jon met with Tyrion, at which point Tyrion kindly decided to explain to the audience why Daenerys killed everyone. Yeah, this conversation wasn't great. It kind of felt to me as if the writers shoehorned in Tyrion explaining why Daenerys did what she did because they knew that most people wouldn't understand why the Mother of Dragons roasted a bunch of innocents last time around. Now of course this is just only my opinion, but I don't think that you should have to have a character come out and explicitly explain another character's motivations. Instead, the audience should be able to work that out for themselves. And to me, this just shows how haphazardly put together her transformation really was. And speaking of haphazard transformation, this kind of links into my general feeling that Game of Thrones was rushed this season, and I've seen some viewers try to defend this as a criticism by saying, well, of course it's going to be rushed. The writers had to finish the show in 6 episodes. Just enjoy it for what it is. Now wait a minute here, okay? D&D did not have to finish the show in 6 episodes. They chose to. They said 6 episodes was what they needed to wrap things up when it clearly wasn't. They haven't done the show justice, so we should be able to criticise the show's pacing because D&D thought they could wrap things up in 6 episodes, but they just botched it completely. This season's pacing is entirely a problem of their own creation, so there really isn't any valid defence for it, at least in my opinion anyway. Anyway, back to Tyrion and Jon's convo. Tyrion's explanation of Dany's motives was pretty bad, but the dialogue that Jon was given was even worse. It just didn't make any sense for him to keep defending his queen. At one point Tyrion says to Jon that he wouldn't have done the same if he was on a dragon, you know, as in he wouldn't have killed everyone in King's Landing, and then Jon replies by saying, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know why Jon's Scottish now either. It's not a very good impression, is it? Come on, Jon, you know you wouldn't do that. Why are you pretending that, you know, the possibility of you killing innocence is even a possibility? That's really bad English, but you get my point. I honestly just wanted to slap him around the face every time he defended Daenerys. It was like she'd brainwashed him. You know, it turns out that Ygritte was right. Jon Snow really does know nothing. This all leads to an eventual meeting of Jon and Dany when they find themselves standing before the Iron Throne. One saving grace is that I felt that Dany did have some decent dialogue during this scene. Hearing her talk about her fate and how she was always right really drove home the idea that she was a bit deluded and clearly had some kind of god complex. However, like I said earlier, I just wish this didn't happen to manifest itself overnight. I know I just praised the dialogue that Dany had, but there was one piece of dialogue that came out of her mouth that just made me laugh because of how absurd it was. She says something to Jon along the lines of, "I remember when I was a kid who couldn't count to 20. What? Who says that? Is that a thing? Do people consider counting to 20 to be a milestone? I mean, people usually tell you if their child can count to 10 and then eventually 100, but 20, I don't really see parents using this as some kind of milestone."
Excuse me, Joshy Josh. I'll have you know that Gwendolyn here learned how to count to 20 when she was just 5 weeks old, because she is a genius, like me.
Right, okay, but when did she count to 10?
What? What kind of question is that?
When was she able to count to 10? My daughter's nearly 2 and she can count to 10. That's normally, you know, what people say. They ask when a kid can count to 10.
What? Who cares about 10? No one cares about 10. What the hell?
Scott, you just launched your child. You might want to call an ambulance.
Hey, I am talking here now, buddy, so listen up, buckaroo. Any imbecile can count to 10. It's all about counting to 20. You know what they say? 20 is the new 10.
I can honestly say I've never heard anyone say that. In the grand scheme of things, of course, this isn't a major complaint, but it just seemed like such a weird thing for anyone to say, and I expect I'm not the only one who thought this was a bit odd. Or should I say even, as it was the number 20. Shortly after Dany infers that she could now count to 20, she is killed by a jealous Jon who became infuriated by the fact that he never learnt how to count to 20. I couldn't believe that Dany died 30 minutes into the episode. Even her death felt like it was over too quickly. I would have also hoped for some dialogue from her as she lay there dying in her lover's arms, but nope, stabbed, dead, that's it. Bye Dany, let's move on next. Drogon then shows up and decides not to kill Jon Snow for some reason, instead burning the Iron Throne before flying off with Dany's dead corpse. Dead corpse? Isn't a corpse always dead? Anyway, I mean, there's plot armor and there's Jon Snow plot armor. This was just ridiculous. Some have come out and defended this scene by saying that Drogon destroyed the Iron Throne to break the will and honour Dany, which would be an okay theory if it weren't for the fact that Drogon is a bloody dragon. Drogon isn't some kind of PhD philosophy student. There's no way a dragon would be this intelligent. It's just nonsense. I get what this scene is trying to symbolise, but, you know, from a logical sense, it just doesn't work. Immediately after, time skips forward a couple of weeks, which means we don't see any immediate reactions to Dany's death from any other important characters. D&D obviously just likes skipping over what should be some of the show's biggest moments. See Jon revealing his parentage to Arya and Sansa, and the episode cutting away at that very point as a prime example. Jon is revealed to be in a cell. Why Grey Worm just wouldn't kill him, I don't know. Why Jon admitted to what he did, I also don't know. Well, I do know, he's an idiot, but no one was there when it happened. Drogon flew off with Daenerys, he could have just probably lied and gotten away with it, but that's Jon Snow for you. It's at this point that the tone of the episode shifts dramatically. The first 30 minutes tried to be depressing and somber. I mean, we had Tyrion seeing the dead on the street of King's Landing, we had him crying over his dead brother and sister, and then we had Jon killing his lover. Now though, we've skipped ahead a couple of weeks and everything is fine. Let's celebrate. Remember Ed Muir? Well, he's back just to be the butt of a joke. Sam argues for democracy. What a funny idea that is. By the way, I don't know why Yara is actually laughing at this, because don't the Iron Islanders choose their leader anyway, but I guess she just forgot. And here is a scene of Tyrion awkwardly moving some chairs around. But oh no, what's this? Everyone sits down and moves his chairs out of place. Pure hilarity. This episode really couldn't be any more bipolar if it tried. So a council is formed, and for some reason, Tyrion decides that because Bran has a good story, he should be king. Yep, a guy who literally went missing for an entire season, who has done nothing of note this season, has a better story than everyone else according to Tyrion. I don't really know why this would even be relevant to choosing who's going to be a king or queen anyway. Why are some of these people even here? Why does everyone vote for Bran when half of them don't even know who he is? Why does no one else try to claim independence after Sansa does? I mean, Yara would have wanted it for sure. Why is Grey Worm just standing back and accepting this? The Unsullied don't care for the politics of Westeros. He and his army should just be killing everyone at this meeting. Why is he allowing Tyrion to speak when 10 seconds ago he said that he didn't get to speak? This entire segment is just a calamity of errors, and yeah, it's just pretty awful. After Bran is swiftly elected king, the remaining time is spent wrapping up what happens to the rest of the characters. Jon is sent to the wall for some reason. I mean, at this point, what even do the Night's Watch have to defend the realm from? Wild dogs that might get through the gap in the wall? Also, it doesn't make sense that Jon disappears beyond the wall to appease Grey Worm when Grey Worm himself pisses off before the episode ends anyway. He and the Unsullied just sail away. How is he supposed to know that Jon is actually staying in the north? Jon could just come back without him being none the wiser. Arya also sails away to explore what's west of Westeros. Sansa is Queen of the North. Bran, as mentioned already, is the king with the most inept small council I've ever seen. Why on earth is Bran the master of coin? How is Sam a maester after only doing about a month's training and then stealing some books and leaving the Citadel? I'm aware I've spent a lot of the last few minutes just asking questions, but that's because a lot of this just doesn't make any sense. And that's without looking at the questions that came up in previous episodes that weren't even answered. I mean, it looks like we'll never know how Arya actually managed to get up close to the Night King and kill him. I'd say that Brienne's ending was the only one that I kind of liked. Her detailing Jaime's achievement showed that she still loved him despite him going back to Cersei, and this was the only time that I really felt anything during this episode. Apart from that, there's not really much else to say. I didn't like the ending of Game of Thrones, that is patently obvious. To me, it didn't make a lot of sense. Tonally, it was all over the place, and for what is the final episode of the show, it turned out to be pretty damn boring, if I'm honest. The sad thing is that during this installment, I could see that there is real potential for Dany being a villain. It's just a shame this story arc was so awkwardly put together. Given a bit more time and care, it could have worked. And the same goes for the rest of the season, really. It was always going to be near impossible to cover the battle with the Night King, the battle with Cersei, and a resolution to who sits on the Iron Throne in just 6 episodes. D&D, however, were either so arrogant in thinking they could pull it off or just simply didn't care and wanted the series to be over, which has now resulted in a total mess of an ending to a brilliant show. Again, I know there are lots of people out there who like the finale and in fact like this final season, but for me, this season will go down as probably one of the most disappointing in TV history that I've had to watch. So, yeah, that's all I have to say, really. Disappointing end to a disappointing season. But, yeah, let me know your thoughts below. Did you like it? Did you like this episode? Did you like this entire season, in fact? You know, whatever your thoughts, just let me know in the comments below. And with that, that's probably the last I'm going to do of Game of Thrones. I don't really see any point of making, you know, specific videos about characters and theories and stuff, because, you know, there's not going to be any more. You know, if the prequel series comes out, perhaps I'll review that whenever that comes out. But yeah, that's probably it now for the Game of Thrones content. I'm more interested in reviewing shows on a weekly basis than writing about something that's ended. So that's why I'm going to start doing Fear again, and, you know, hopefully some other projects in the future as well. So yeah, in the immediate future, we're going to go back to sort of Walking Dead stuff, Fear the Walking Dead, and then if any other programs sort of pique my interest, I'll start doing them as well. But yeah, I sort of prefer reviews over sort of feature videos, to be honest, so that's what I'll keep doing. But anyway, thank you for your support, and, you know, everyone who's watched these videos, thank you, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed them, even if you disagree with me. So, thanks everyone, take care, bye.